So a groundbreaking and paradigm shift making research paper was recently published. I'd like to thank Josephine Winstrom for making me aware of this article on her own Facebook post, and I went to read it. It's got quite a name. Pattern Differentiation and Tuning Shift in Human Sensory Cortices Underlying Long-Term Threat Memory. I know, it's a long one. It's really talking about how we are now understanding in a different way through a series of research studies how PTSD is processed in the brain, the networks involved, and therefore, even though the article isn't making that jump, what we should be considering in treatment. What's really interesting is we're already considering in treatment what this article is suggesting, but it's providing more of a raison d'etat for why. So let me explain. One of the core things that we describe in many mental health issues neurologically, and specifically with PTSD, is that the amygdala, the alarm bell of the brain, is bigger and it has more connections with other parts of the brain, while the prefrontal cortex, associated with innovative thinking, executive functioning, the ability to downgrade reactivity in exchange for logical responses that are appropriate to the moment, is actually smaller. So we're given more to fear and less to rationality, more to emotionality, and we suffer the consequences in PTSD. And there are many other neurological presentations, what we call them as neurocorrelates, but a rather new one that has come to light is that actually when we experience a high-level threat, our sensory cortices actually pick up that information, encoding it, and it gets listed, therefore, as a memory. So like if during a traumatic event, for example, there was a lot of, red around, when you would see that in the future, that may be encoded in your visual cortex and can be seen as a trigger for which you would have a conditioned response around. This article particularly really wanted to focus on smell, the olfactory bulb, which they were calling the olfactory cortex, and the area surrounding it, which are very much involved in short-term memory processing to long-term memory, and talking about the power of scent. Now that's uniquely interesting to me because if you've looked on some of the other Instagram posts, I actually talk about how scent is so potent, positive scent, and bringing somebody back to a pleasant memory and allowing us to transcend fear that might occur in doing other kinds of work by allowing the smell to be this almost net from which somebody moves up from, right? It's like a sense of security. In the other domain, it's really important for us to appreciate that somebody that smells something that might have been present at the time of a traumatic event could be triggered, even if you think that that smell, like we have a lot of time in yoga classes, lavender, is across the board going to be very calming. So it's something for you to think about, where in each individual class you do, you should make sure scents are appropriate to that person and maybe take them out of group classes if you don't know what people are coming with. And another very important and interesting piece of the article is that it was saying once we have an encoded memory, we can just see a part of something, sense an aspect of smell, hear a sound akin to, but not completely that robust nature of the thing that was traumatic. And the brain will actually fill out the gaps, perceiving that the entire threat is there. And so it's so important when we are teaching yoga, where there's a lot of movement and somatosensory information being provided to somebody, where some person might feel, oh, that stretch in my leg feels just like that. And the gaps get filled in and they go into that trauma space that we actually are cueing and clarifying. And this feeling you have here is likely to be this feeling. Not it is that feeling, but it's likely to be this feeling. And this is the reason. Can you pay attention to exactly what you feel rather than overlaying the present moment with past experience and then going into that fear place, right? So just some insights from a very cool paper. We're going to put it up, but I won't lie, it is a complex read. I was sitting there with Wikipedia, but you know, I'm a total nerd. I love that. I love reading things that I don't understand so I can, you know, get a little personal lesson in. Anyway, the trauma community has long understood the importance of sensory processing in helping to remit from traumatic experience, and this gives more support for that understanding. Namaste.